Absolutely no pressure. Hi, so nice seeing all of you here. Is it on? Can I click? Yeah. So this says how human is digital. And I will explain it later and come back to it. But while I was on a plane here, this was the issue that actually tied everything I will be talking about together for me. And when Andres was briefing me of what should I start with, opening the conference, like I have a lot of things to say, a lot of actually topics that will be covered by many speakers after me. He said, like, no big ideas, just, cases, real human experience, something that happened to you. I was like, hold on, how come no big ideas? Because when you think about digital, you think about so many big things like GitHub, Glitch. You think about Google Poetry. You think about what color is the dress, the wireframes, HTML5, Chinese internet, Reddit is down, some weird things that are happening, digital strategy, also weird things happening with visualization, Google Analytics. You think about finally robots interacting with you with a human language in a chat, like you're talking to a friend. You're thinking about some digital nostalgia as well. Tinder. Oh my, Tinder, the more we think about technology and where they lead us now, the more we think like maybe we're becoming less human. We're having digital for breakfast, lunch. We're maybe even using people like they're just another random website, and then inventing things like this to just swipe and swipe and swipe. But if you think about Tinder, really, from a different perspective, when do we use it? It's not only when we're bored, but it's also when we feel really lonely, and we really need reassurance that there is a lot of fish in the sea, and then we will not be alone. And I think this is so, so human of us. So I'm going to be talking about 3 things today. I'm going to talk about one project that is happening in Moscow. And I'm also going to be talking about how-to of a specific digital case. This is a conference. We come here not only to meet new people, but also to find, real tips, how to do things. So I'm going to talk about how we did something, and a little bit on what's next. So the project started in Venice, where 5 very, very wealthy Russian men came together on a boat. Venice doesn't really have streets, so there's probably one place to come together for wealthy people. And they were discussing what did they see in the Venice Architectural Biennale. They've seen a lot of amazing projects for New York, for Barcelona, for Sydney, a lot of cities, but nothing for Moscow. And just for a second to remind you, Moscow is a very, very weird city. It's not a city for pedestrians, because sometimes in order to cross the street, you have to go this side, this side, this side, and then it takes you 7 minutes. But then it's also not a city for the cars, because you constantly stuck in a traffic jam. And being the wealthy people that they are, they could do a lot of things. They could lobby their interests in politics. They could build a building, or maybe even a whole part of the city. They could do so many things, but they decided to start an institution called Strelka. This is Strelka. This is something that is mostly well known around the world as a Pussy Riot church, but it has a different name. It's a former garage, and it's currently a very influential institute in Russia. So the idea that they had, instead of lobbying their interests in politics or doing something else, their idea was to take the architects that actually do something in the city, the urban planners in Moscow, and kind of cross-pollinate their knowledge with all of the other professions. So they decided to produce people instead of the projects. And this is how Strelka began. Some more fancy photos. A lot of people come there. And it has 6 programs already. One of the first ones was called Strelka Summer, and it was designed to set up the agenda in the city. You cannot just open an institution and expect that a lot of people will come to study even when they don't think about urban studies at all. They don't know what you want to teach, so you have to first explain what is going to happen there. So this is a summer program, which I think is one of the biggest, actually, festivals in the world. It goes through from May to September, and every day you have a lot of events happening in this courtyard, in there. And they're all free. So you have the amazing lecturers coming from all over the world, speaking about physics, architecture, how to cook things, etc., etc. And you have parties, workshops, you have festivals, and all of that is designed to actually build curiosity in regular people in the city. They don't care about anything sometimes. Sometimes they just want to go out, hang out, do something else. How do you produce this curiosity? So Strelka Summer Program is something that is designed to do that. Then there is the educational program, the one that I was talking about from the very beginning, the one that is creating the agents of change. And it is very, very interesting and very, very unique, and I would say very utopian in a way, because it's only 40 people a year, and there could be like 600 people applying. So it's only 40 people a year coming from all over the world. We have a specific quota, like 30% are Russian speakers, 70% are all over the world. Very multidisciplinary, so it's only 30% of architects and urban planners, and 70% of all the rest of professions. We even have food scientists, philosophers, musicians, anyone who could apply his knowledge to the city. And a lot of things are happening in the city. And there is research produced. There are really interesting projects produced. And one of the, I think, most important things happening there is that it is free. So it doesn't cost any money for people to study there. And it also gives stipend for people to relocate to Moscow, to not think about, like, where do you get a job, how do you live next. You don't care about it. You think only about the thing that you're designing. You're only thinking about the project that you're working on with all the rest of the professions. So this is the second program. The third one grew absolutely unexpectedly. It's a consultancy called Strelka KB, which was started after the first year of Strelka by a graduate. And it is now a countrywide influential consultancy. They started with redesigning one of the Moscow's biggest parks, which is kind of considered as a central park of Moscow right now. They started doing workshops for local government. Can you imagine 105 Russian mayors of the cities in one room? And consultancy trying to explain to them that actually listening to people in your city makes sense, giving them some tools, explaining them that you don't necessarily have to copy what's happening in Barcelona. You can actually look at what's happening in your city and design your own solution. So yeah, things like that have to be explained. And time went by, and now, 4 years after that, we're designing territorial development for biggest Russian cities. We're designing how the streets will look in Moscow in a couple of years. We're holding huge international architectural exhibitions. And this is like one alumni of the first year of Strelka that was started 5 years ago, which is insane. Moscow Urban Forum was also one of the things that was designed by Strelka KB. There is the secret ingredient, which I really like talking about, is the Strelka bar, which is really well known. It is so well known that sometimes people don't know that I work at Strelka Institute, and they're like, so you're dealing with education in a bar? I'm like, yeah, you can say so. But the bar is really utopian in such a way that it looks beautiful, It's not cheap at all. So who goes to this bar? We had Naomi Campbell there. We had Roman Abramovich there, guy who has millions. We had people from Department of Culture, Department of Transportation. But the most insane and I think clever thing that happened is we have all the students and staff there with crazy discount, because we cannot afford eating there, with crazy discount, but we actually do networking there. So we see somebody from Department of Culture sitting a couple of tables across, and we grab the manager of the bar and say, hey, Max, can you, introduce me to him? And then your research finally has some data. Your research finally has a new expert that you were trying to contact, but you couldn't. So I think this bar is very interesting. And we also like to party. Sometimes a lot. And yeah, this is another thing that draws people to Strelka, and through this bar they find out about the organization and start being interested in urban studies. We also have a publishing program. It is very academic on one side, but very rebellious on the other. So for instance, we of course publish books, but on the other one, we approach an expert with an interesting book idea, and instead of waiting for a year when he finishes writing the book, when it's designed, when it's edited, we actually say, write an essay for 100 pages, under 100 pages. We're gonna publish it in a month, digitally, and whoever wants it will print it on demand. So instead of waiting for a year for a book to come out, you get it in a couple of months, the idea, the essence of it, that he will later develop. So yeah, this is Strelka. And as time went by, I was a student there. I started working after I finished it. As time went by, we started thinking like, okay, 4 years of amazing research, projects, products, amazing people, but it's only 40 people a year. A lot of money, a lot of resources, very boutique, but only 40 people a year. That's not, you know, for Russia, which has 160 million people living in there, what is 40 people a year, right? So you have to scale in some kind of way. So the question is, how do you translate all of this into digital? How human can digital be? How can you translate all of the traits of a unique bar, of an amazing consultancy, of research, of crazy people from all over the world into this? Oh my God, I'm running out of time. An author. So we decided to create an educational platform for starters. And we encountered a lot of issues, problems, challenges. And I will speak about 5 solutions that we created that we think will work. And I hope these ideas will be useful for you so you can apply them in all of your projects. 1, how do you deal with complexity? Urban studies is a very complex topic. You cannot just grab a person from the street and say, hey, you should like, you know, be interested in your city. Research it, discover it. How do you deal with that? You do a call to action. We're saying, become an urban entrepreneur. Create your own business. A business that is different from everyone else. You know, there are a lot of restaurants in the city, but somehow everybody goes only to 2 of them because they're somehow really interested, because they have something that other ones that don't have. So we're saying, yes, do this research, find a niche, find something really local, and create a business from that. How to keep real life in the loop when everything, you know, Coursera, edX, you just have text, you just have tests that you do there, and there is no human interaction. So we decided to create a reality show with our methodology that we designed for the digital course. We got the first testers, real-life testing people. We got them on the streets, and we shot a reality show of how they were doing this course in real life. So basically, when you're studying there, episode by episode, it is unraveled how other people were struggling with the same tasks. How to fight the clip thinking and zapping. You know, when you constantly change the tab, when you constantly change the page, you just embrace it. So we have a lot of content. We have even more content. We have second screen. We have copes. We have videos. We have a lot of interactive stuff. So you get stuck there, and our competition is not Coursera. Our competition is the new season of True Detective. I will skip this slide. How do you work with mass audience? You know, not the people who were handpicked out of 600, the 40 ones, but with the mass audience. We make it simple and familiar. So one small example, we have this really complicated, not really complicated, but a complicated quote from a, you don't have to read it, a quote from an expert about industrialization and post-industrialization. And we bring a little bit of our bar in here. So you don't want to read this is boring. Get a drink. And it's simplified. And you can get another drink, and it's more simplified. Now everybody can understand, you know, urban studies. The last one is how to make people go outside their room, because our specific platform requires not only sitting in your room and doing the tests and whatever, it requires actually standing up, going to the city, and gathering data, finding out what's happening, getting to know your city. We say catch them when they're already there. When you go to the work, when you go to the gym. So we have an app. that we're developing that will be just in your pocket. So whenever you're going somewhere and you encounter something really, really weird and bizarre, or something really interesting, you can already start learning on the go. This is the last slide. And I would like to post a question / a challenge that the digital education, even though we try really hard, is not there. And it's not going to be there in a couple more years. Because when you have one piece of paper with all the instructions written down, step A, do this, step B, do this, step C, do this, and you have one team doing that, but then you have another team of people who hate each other, they struggle, they quarrel, like, I don't want to work with you, I hate this, I'm so frustrated. But then I suddenly find a solution, and then I come to my teacher with a solution, and we collectively, beautifully brainstorm it to the very climax of it. How do you translate it into digital? How human can digital education be? I think this is a question that is relevant to all of the fields, and this is the question that we're posting to our project, and I hope that we're going to solve it somehow. Thank you.